Good morning, confident minds.
My name is Trinity,
My name is Clifton.
and you're listening to Confident Minds Radio. You're tuning into the first broadcast of STL's first and only mental health radio created for the youth and by the youth.
We're here to give the young people a voice to speak out on mental health and well-being. In other words, we're creating confident and healthy minds one day at a time.
Today we have a special guest from the Creative Reaction Lab. Her name is Erica, and thank you for kicking it with us.
Thanks for having me.
Can you tell us a little about yourself and what you do? Basically, what is your mission?
Sure. Thank you for having me both, Confident Minds, Clifton and Trinity. My name is Erica. I work at Creative Reaction Lab as the Associate Manager of Learning and Education. So I support a lot of the work that we do to train people, both young people and adults, mostly adults at this point, in our process of equity-centered community design. And I am a design educator and a user experience designer, and I'm an ally to young people. I really like to work with young people and support them as you all work and do really amazing things as leaders and as designers.
Okay, how about that? So, normally when you look at the definition of mental health, you would probably get something like how strong a mind is. But today, I would like to know what your definition of mental health is.
Yeah, that's a really hard question. So it's so good, and I think that part of the reason it's hard to define mental health is that we don't get to talk about it enough in our world. Well, I define mental health as how well I feel or how well one feels. Sure, mentally in terms of how one's mind is working and how one feels about themselves and the world and their outlook, but also I think that mental health is so interconnected to physical health, emotional health, environmental health, spiritual health. It's really a systemic, not issue, but a systemic sort of ecosystem that we are all part of. And so I define mental health as, just how good one feels about oneself and the world around them and their interactions with people and places and spaces.
Okay.
Wow, I love that. This is important to us because this podcast is geared toward Black and brown kids who don't really talk about mental health because the definition in these communities is so misunderstood. I believe that mental health isn't just about horrible disorders and doesn't mean that you're crazy. It's about our mindsets, and we should be able to talk about it openly.
Exactly. So what's the most common issue that you see that weighs down on kids' age in high school because they deal with so much stuff?
Yeah, so I can only speak from my perspective as someone who's no longer a young person. I think that some of the things that I faced growing up, being in high school, being a young person, being mixed, the one thing that I shared just before was the stigma around mental health, and I think that is maybe a common issue or cause that people bring up. But I think that, as you said, people often think like mental health is like about disorders or diseases, or it's just quote unquote like crazy people. But actually, mental health and mental health issues affect all of us, and I don't think that we have safe or healthy ways to talk about it in schools or in our workplaces or in our neighborhoods or our communities. So I think that stigmatization is definitely one point, and it's I think especially hard when as a young person sort of dealing with a lot of social pressures, and on top of that, if mental health has a stigma, it's sort of like, well, don't want to be associated with that stigma. Another big thing is like a lack of support, and I think that's broad, but I think that oftentimes because mental health is pathologized and seen as a disease, the ones who are in positions of sort of quote unquote like curing mental health or mental health issues that people are going through are not really treating people as people or people as humans, and rather as like diseases or as cases that need to be solved, and I think that that's also a problem.
Definitely. With that being said, how can you stay encouraged through dealing with these problems, and how can we be confident enough to face them?
Yeah, I think that what you all are doing exactly of creating outlets for youth by youth to talk about some stuff and to unpack some issues is a really key way to start to deal with these problems as young people and to support others who may not necessarily want to talk to somebody but may be open to like listening to other people talk about these things.
Okay. Well, I am so glad that you came to join us because what you said is very important and it can inspire the youth in a lot of ways. So thank you again, Erica.
Thank you so much, Trinity and Clifton, for having me. It's an honor.
And thank you to all our listeners, and we want you all to remember that confidence is key.